Welcome to this explainer on what is, without a doubt, one of the most incredible upsets we've ever witnessed. Guarani Defiance, Germany versus Paraguay. This was an unforgettable night where the beautiful game reminded us, in the most dramatic fashion possible, that history guarantees absolutely nothing.
As the old saying goes, football has a cruel way of reminding even giants that history guarantees nothing. Every single World Cup seems to give us that one story no one sees coming, a moment that completely defies logic, defies the odds, and completely rewrites the script. And folks, this is exactly that story.
Let's set the stage with giants versus history and the absolute weight of expectation.
Even before the opening whistle blew, the psychological contrast here was just staggering. On one side, you have Germany. We're talking overwhelming favorites stepping onto the pitch, burdened by the suffocating, crushing weight of expectation that comes with their legendary history. They're carrying the pressure of a nation that demands nothing less than perfection. And on the other side, Paraguay, the defiant underdogs. Armed with this fierce Guarani defiance, they walked out of that tunnel knowing they had absolutely nothing to lose, and literally the whole world to gain.
Which brings us to a roaring Asunción, where the stadium was shaking.
The stadium was shaking long before the first whistle even blew. The visceral atmosphere was just electric. You could physically feel the concrete vibrating under the fans' feet. Tens of thousands of roaring supporters created this impenetrable wall of sound, a deafening chorus echoing right into the night sky. The tension was so palpable, setting a terrifyingly beautiful stage for the battle ahead.
Looking at how this match flowed, right at kickoff, Germany showed us exactly why they were the undisputed giants. They opened with a deeply confident, sweeping start that made it seem like a German win was just inevitable. They were controlling the ball with clinical precision. But here's the thing, Paraguay absolutely refused to crumble. Instead, they leaned heavily into a disciplined, fighting defense, absorbing wave after wave of German attacks. And slowly, minute by grueling minute, they actually started to claw back the momentum.
They were fighting for every single blade of grass. Paraguay defended with relentless discipline. They fought for every loose ball, entirely refusing to be intimidated by the crest on those German jerseys. And that fearless determination paid off in the most emotional way possible. A stunning 1-to-1 equalizer tore right through the German defense. The stadium just erupted into absolute pandemonium. Suddenly, these underdogs weren't just surviving the onslaught anymore, they were truly believing.
But then we enter the crucible. The pure agony of extra time.
We're talking heavy legs and burning lungs. As regular time expired and the grueling crucible of extra time began, this intense physical and emotional exhaustion violently set in for both squads. The sweat on the players' brows was matched only by the sheer desperation in their eyes. At this point, every single sprint feels like a full marathon. Every tackle requires drawing from deep, hidden reserves of energy they probably didn't even know they had left.
There was just this unbearable pressure. The dread mounted with every passing second of extra time, with the shadow of a looming penalty shootout hanging heavy in the damp night air. For Germany, you could see the agonizing, creeping fear of not putting the game away when they had the chance. For Paraguay, it was a desperate, clawing hope of just holding on for a few more minutes. This wasn't a game of tactics or formations anymore. It had completely devolved into a raw, brutal battle of pure human endurance.
And that leads us to the climax, the shootout. It is a suffocating, heartbeat, syncopated test of nerves, where an entire nation's hopes rest on a single kick from 12 yards out. The shootout began with agonizing precision, 1-to-1. Every single strike echoed through the stadium like a cannon blast, and every desperate flying dive by the goalkeepers carried the crushing weight of football history right before our eyes. Honestly, the silence before each kick was just deafening.
You really felt the suffocating weight of a nation on these guys. If you looked closely at the faces of the German players slowly walking up to the penalty spot, you could see it so plainly. It was this paralyzing expectation. They were supposed to win. The pressure was a literal physical weight on their shoulders. But radiating from the Paraguayans, pure, unadulterated belief. They stared down the goal not with fear, but with absolute conviction. They weren't just playing a game anymore. They were writing a legend.
2-2. The tension ramps up to an absolute breaking point here. You could feel every single heartbeat echoing in the stands, syncing up in a rhythm of pure anxiety. The sheer gravity of the moment was so thick, so overwhelmingly powerful, it honestly felt like time itself had completely stopped. Players on the halfway line locked arms, barely even able to watch.
And then, the break. A stunning, miraculous victory for Paraguay as the Giants fall to their knees. The absolute crushing heartbreak of the German squad, faces buried in the grass, utterly devastated, was met instantly by the explosive, tear-filled celebrations of a Paraguayan team that had just achieved the absolute impossible. They rushed the field in this incredible wave of raw emotion, having defied all the odds to truly shock the world.
Which brings us to an inspiring conclusion about the beautiful game.
They call it the beautiful game for a reason, because on any given day, passion, teamwork, belief, and resilience can overcome even the strongest reputation. It reminds us why billions of people are absolutely captivated by this sport, because heart and Guarani defiance truly can topple giants. So if history guarantees us nothing, it leaves us with one pretty amazing thought. What giants in your own life are just waiting to be toppled by a little bit of defiance?